Okay, good morning and namaste. Welcome to San Diego College of Ayurveda's presentation on, we're going to be talking about Panchamahabhut. We talked last week about the five elements, or Panchamahabhut, and we went over Samkhya philosophy. And today we're going to talk about the five elements and how they are present within the body. So we're going to start with a little series of slides that I just put together this morning, and to try to illustrate how the flow of energies happens within the body. So to start with, we have this sitting, meditating figure who looks a little bit like a space alien, just so you can see that the eyes are facing you and you can see which is the right side and which is the left side. This is very important. So we have different channels which are called nadis. Nadi means a channel, like a channel for flow of energy. And one of the main channels is called the sushumna nadi, and that flows along the spine, going from the root up. And also each of these is associated with one of the elements, and the sushumna is associated with, let's make a more visible color here for the annotation, is associated with air, because it flows, it carries information. The spine is the most important, it's one of the most important channels in the body. This is where all the information of the nerves flows. So there's this flow, and again, when we're talking about flow, we're talking about a flow of energy, a flow of subtle energy, vital force within the body. So you have sushumna nadi, which is associated with air. And then, all right, I'm annotating. You have, on the right side, you have the Pingala nadi. And Pingala is associated with fire. It is associated with the masculine energy. And you'll notice that the way that it travels, it winds along, forming half of a helix, starting from the root and winding around and going up. On the left side, you have Ida. The Ida nadi is associated with water and the feminine energy, and it winds starting on the left side, and it winds around, and it is also associated with the left nostril in pranayama. Pingala is associated with the right nostril. So if you practice yoga, you may have breathing exercises that are specific to using the left nostril and right nostril, and that is because of these Ida and Pingala. So Ida is associated with feminine energy, and it is on the left side. Pingala associated with fire and masculine energy, and that is on the right side. So what about the places where these three channels intersect? Well, these are the chakras, and you have 7 chakras, beginning with the Muladhara, the root chakra. And then the next intersection is the Swadhisthana chakra. This is just above the root chakra, and this is there are also some associations with these, which we'll talk about in the next slide. There is the Manipura, or the navel chakra, which is just behind the navel. Then there is the Anahata chakra, or the heart chakra. Then the Vishuddha chakra, or the throat chakra. There is the Agya chakra, which is also called the third eye, which is just between the eyebrows. And finally, there is the Sahasrara, or crown chakra. So, putting it all together, we have an association of the lower 5 chakras with 5 elements. So the Muladhara chakra, or the root chakra, is associated with earth. And, you know, if the Muladhara chakra is how we're grounded, how we're connected to the earth, to solid and substantial things. The Swadhisthana chakra is associated with water. The Swadhisthana chakra is associated with our reproductive abilities, and so with water. The Manipura chakra, which is behind the navel, is associated with the digestive tract and with fire. Fire is very essential in digestion and breaking things down. When we talk about fire in the context of Ayurveda, we're speaking about the transformative and combustive qualities of fire. So you can have in chemical terminology, you can have a process of transformation by enzymes or acids. And we're going to say that that is a function of fire, because fire is something that transforms. You take matter in one state, and in fire, it becomes transformed. You take wood and you burn it, and you end up with some water vapor, carbon dioxide, carbon in the form of ash, and light and heat. So, so the Manipura chakra is associated with fire. Then there is the heart chakra, or Anahata. This is associated with air. It is essential to circulation. It's the circulation of blood throughout the body that is pumped by the heart, through which we experience sensation. And if blood is cut off, we feel pins and needles, we feel a loss of sensation. So from the viewpoint of the way that the subtle energies flow within the body, the heart is essential, and it is associated with air, because air is all about movement. And if there's a problem with the heart, if there's a problem with circulation, it adversely affects the circulation of vital energies in the body, and if the heart stops, we will die very quickly. Then there is the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra. This is associated with space. And remember, we also spoke about the tanmatras, the objects of sense perception. So there are associations of these elements with objects of sense perception. So the Muladhara chakra is associated with earth and the sense of smell. The Swadhisthana chakra is associated with water and the sense of taste. The Manipura chakra is associated with fire and the sense of perception. The Anahata chakra is associated with air and the sense of touch. And the Vishuddha chakra is associated with space and sound. So again, remember that sound is associated with space because sound is all about the spacing between sound waves. Even though sound travels through a medium like air or water, what is sound constitutes is actually the timing of the spacing between waves, according to a physicist. So this is perfectly consistent with what we've learned about Sankhya philosophy. So that's it in a nutshell. So one thing that I just want to touch on here, why this is very important, because think again, going back to these three nadis or channels, sushumna, pingala, and ida. So these all have association with the three doshas, kapha, pitta, and vayu. So the sushumna nadi is associated with kapha and earth. The pingala nadi is associated with fire and pitta. And ida is associated with water. And I'm sorry, sushumna nadi is associated with, it's ida that is associated with water and kapha, and sushumna is associated with air and vata. So there is also a connection of these three channels, and in pulse diagnosis, something that you will also be learning about, there are three fingers that are used, and the index finger is associated with each of the index finger, the middle finger, and the ring finger are each associated with these three channels. So pulse diagnosis is not actually something physical, it is a subtle sense that one develops for sensing the flow of the energies in these three channels. So again, the whole point of this slideshow is just to familiarize you with these three channels, sushumna nadi, pingala nadi, and ida nadi. So we will be also putting this slideshow up on the site, and I suppose that's going to go under the Sankhya. Okay, so are there any questions at this point before we go on to the next part of the presentation, which is going to be talking about Panchamahabhut? Okay, so no questions. We will move on. Okay, so here we have a presentation on Panchamahabhut, the 5 Mahabhuts, or building blocks of life. So the 5 elements, you remember we talked about in Sankhya philosophy the 5 elements, how they're present in the macrocosm and how they're also present in microcosm. So space or ether is the subtle element, and from space comes air, which is the light element. Air creates friction and thus fire. Fire creates moisture and thus water, and water creates earth. Earth is the most tangible and heavy element. So how is ether, how is space manifest in our body? Well, there's space in your ears, there's space in your nerves, there's space between the cells, there's space between the neurons and synapses in the brain tissue. There are spaces in the bones. there is space in the colon. There is, when we feel distracted, we sometimes use the term, oh, I'm feeling a little spaced out. It was a popular expression back in the hippie era, and I think it persists to some degree, because we feel that we're floating in space. We feel ungrounded or disconnected. So that is a function of space when we're not able to focus. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. There we go. That's better. When we feel bloated, there's a function of space. Communication is crossing spaces, getting concepts across spaces. When we're sharing space, this is associated with our, we have a sense of feeling too crowded or feeling too distant. These are all things that have associations with space. And our sense of hearing. Hearing is very spatial. It's, when we have both ears functioning, we're able to locate the origin of a sound just based on our, ability to sort of triangulate or home in on the origin. So, where does air manifest within the body? You have air in the bronchial tree, in the bronchioles, and in the lungs. You have gas in the colon. You have the respiratory gases. We're breathing in, we're taking in the combination of nitrogen and oxygen. We're breathing out the carbon dioxide waste gases. Our motor responses, they are associated with air, with the nerves, touch, sensation, emotional fear, and anxiety. So these are all things that are associated with air, which characterizes movement. And there's peristalsis, how things move through the colon and through various bodily channels. This is considered to be associated with air. Any bodily movement, muscle movement, moving from one place to the other, our heartbeats, our circulation of blood, our circulation of lymphatic fluid, our nerve impulses, the traveling of our nerve impulses, the expansion and contraction of the lungs. According to this understanding, these are all associated with air, with the air element. Then we have fire. So fire is found as digestive fire, digestive enzymes. There's a sensation of heat that's associated with digestion, even though it's a process that involves acids and enzymes. That is the function of fire. Fire is transformative. The digestion of nutrients. Also the digestion of thoughts and the digestion of emotions. These are functions of fire. How do we incorporate things? Our basal metabolic rate and our transformative energy, the cellular intelligence. So there's these processes that happen at a cellular level where we are incorporating energy and actually able to metabolize various substances. This is also associated with fire. So if you think about the way that emotion is manifest, and there's a very interesting question here. The question is, why is emotional fear not fire? So we can think of fire sometimes as something that we may be afraid of because it's a destructive force. But that is external. That is when you see fire externally and it produces a fearful emotion in it, that's usually a fear of harm. But here we're talking about the bodily processes and the way that things are happening inside us, and sometimes at a cellular level. So when we have a fearful reaction, that emotional fear is more connected with air because of movement. So when we fear something, it makes us shudder. It causes reaction. For example, we might get goosebumps when we're afraid. We may shudder. It may cause us to shake. And this shaking, this movement is associated with air. Something that makes you hot, like anger, for example, becoming angry, this is more of an association of fire. You have a sensation of being hot, even if your body temperature may not actually even rise, but we say, oh, someone is hot-headed, meaning that they are prone to anger. And when someone has become fearful, we say, well, I was shaking in my boots. Because literally, a reaction to fear tends to be trembling or shaking and movement, and naturally we want to run away. So really what we're talking about is how fire is manifest internally in bodily processes, not how we may externally perceive fire as a destructive force. For example, and some people may perceive others, like someone may have more of a fear of water than of fire, and someone else may have more of a fear of heights, acrophobia or agoraphobia, which is more associated with the fear of open spaces or fear of heights, and that's associated more with space. So there are many different types of phobias, but generally the types of reactions that they have in the body is what we're really focused on. So, when you're experiencing trembling as a result of an emotion, and sometimes there's a mixture. So, for example, if you have a fear of heights and you're up high, you may feel vertigo, a loss of groundedness. You may feel some trembling. You may also feel some nausea, and these are all things that are associated with movement as well as with spatial disorientation. So, there are many different ways, and there are mixtures, but in general, the fear tends to produce more of an action associated with air or vata. So getting back to fire, we have the digestive enzymes, HCI, bile, insulin. These are all things that are associated with the way that different substances are transformed, how we make one thing into something else. Fire is really all about transformation and transformative energy. The neurotransmitters and neuropeptides, there are all these very complex chemical processes. There are, medical science analyzes things in terms of, lots of various long chain proteins that have very complex folding sequences, and there are just, an incredibly complex array of chemical interactions that are taking place. but we can put these under the category of transformational. They're associated with fire. The enzymes that are present, enzymes that are in saliva, which are part of the digestive process, which are the first step in the digestive process. In vision, remember, fire is associated with vision. It's associated with form and the perception of form, and with thinking. So there is fire is associated with pitta, and the pitta that resides in the frontal lobes is called sattva pitta. So there's a feature if someone has a high forehead, that's generally someone who does a lot of thinking, and their thinking is focused on action. Because there are many different types of thinking. Then we come to water. So the water element is present in all of the various bodily fluids, the rasa dhatu, blood, and all mucous membranes. They all contain liquid. This includes lymph, blood, plasma, the synovial fluid in the joints. These are all associated with water. And then finally we have earth. So earth is associated with the solid fibrous parts, hair, nails, bones, teeth, the fiber that gives bulk to stool and allows us to eliminate. If we don't have enough bulk, if we don't have enough fiber in our diet, then we're not able to eliminate. Poisons accumulate, and this is a very well-known fact. It's very important to get sufficient fiber. I think everyone knows this, and it's the part of the association with earth. So you have bones, hair, nails, teeth, tendons, skin, cysts, fibroids, our feeling of groundedness, our feeling of connection, our stability. How much do we resist change? How much do we develop attachment? And how much do we have sentimental emotions for things? So this is if you think about it, it's very essential. There's a term that's used in psychology when they talk about someone having detachment. If someone is not able to develop attachments, if they are not able to connect their actions, then there's a type of psychosis that can be caused simply by not being able to attach consequences to actions. And groundedness is very important. If we don't feel any groundedness, if we don't feel any stability, then it's very hard sometimes to judge things and to have our ability to function productively. So now we're going to talk about association between the three doshas, Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu, Kapha, Pitta, Vata, and the 5 elements. So Pitta is associated with fire and water. So you can think of it this way: fire dries out water, water douses fire. So there is a connection of fire and water with the Pitta dosha. Kapha has the stability of earth and the opposing fluidity of water. So think about a river flowing over boulders. You have rapids. There's You know, there are these two opposing forces. There's the flow of water, and there's the stability of earth. And these are two elements that are associated with kapha, because kapha is also associated with liquid, water, coolness, moisture, mucus. These are all attributes. Solidity, fat, gaining weight. These are all things that are associated with kapha. You know, whereas the pitta is more fiery. And then vata has more of an association with air and space. So vata is all about movement, going from one place to the other, feeling things, sensations. These are all associated with vata. So now we come to a very, let's see if we can make that just slightly bigger. Okay, so there are 10 opposing qualities of these 5 elemental categories. And this is a very, very important topic. So, for example, you have heavy and light, guru and lagu. So between kapha and vata, which is going to be associated with kapha? Guru, or the heavy quality, whereas vata will have a light quality. So you basically have 10 types of qualities which have opposites, and one of these is going to be associated with each of the doshas as well. And you have cold and hot, shita and ushna. Again, you'll have between kapha and pitta, kapha will be associated with cold, and pitta will be associated with hot. Then you have tikshna and manda, sharp and dull. And sharp can mean intense, and it can also mean something that, well, yeah, so think of sharp as intense. So between pitta and kapha, pitta will be more intense, more sharp, and the kapha will be more dull. Kapha is stable. Kapha is not moved. It's not so easily moved. Whereas the pitta energy wants to penetrate and move things and break through. You have these qualities of oily and dry, slakshna and kata. Then there's smooth and rough. There is dense and liquid. There is soft and hard, sthira and chala. Mridu is soft and katina is hard. And then you have the stable and mobile. So kapha, for example, is stable. Kapha wants to remain rooted, wants to remain still in one place. Vata is chala, it wants to move, it wants to go places. Subtle and gross, sukshma and sthula. So subtle, you can also say fine, delicate, and gross is, for example, I have very, stubby, strong fingers, and someone else may have long, delicate, artistic fingers. So there are attributes that you can apply each of these 10 attributes to pretty much any bodily function, and you can also differentiate the various body parts and bodily functions of persons who have a predominance of one dosha or the other according to these 10 opposing qualities. And then there is finally clear versus cloudy. So these are 10 opposing qualities of the 5 elements. And now we're going to talk a little bit about how these opposing qualities are manifest within the body. So, starting with Guru, heavy, and Lagu, light. So Guru, heaviness is associated with bones and things that give the body bulk, whereas Lagu, or the light quality, is associated with an alert mind. A mind functions well when it's able to move quickly, when it's able to comprehend things quickly. And when bones have bulk, when bones are strong, then they perform their function well. If bones lose their strength, if they become brittle and lose their strength, and there was an interesting, there was a trend towards applying, using hormonal therapy to increase bone density, which did not necessarily increase bone strength. So heaviness is associated with the strength of bones and bodily strength as well. So the qualities of Manda, dull, this is necessary for relaxation and sleep. And Tikshna is important. The acute, the sharp quality is essential to digestion. So if we didn't have the quality of dullness, if we couldn't fall asleep at night, it would completely screw up our whole metabolism. We would not be able to function properly without sleep. It's absolutely essential. And it's most essential for the function of intellect. We need downtime. Shita, the cold, is associated with fear. So again, we talked about, fear, trembling, also fear, shivering. We feel I felt a chill go down my spine. And Ushna is associated with our body temperature. Snigdha is associated with the softness of skin, and Snigdha is the oily, and Ruksha is dry. So when there's dryness and constipation, then this also causes many health problems. But if there's sufficient secretion of oil, then the skin remains soft and flexible. So then Slakshna and Kara, smooth and rough. So Slakshna, smoothness, is associated with the synovial fluid in the joints and healing of wounds, whereas roughness gives strength to the tendons, and the roughness of rough edge allows us to keep the GI tract clean. The quality of Sandra and Dravya. So remember, Sandra is the quality of dense. So the thick muscles, and as opposed to the liquid, the plasma, the blood, and secretions. Then mridu, soft and hard. So you have are soft tissues like in the stomach and thighs, and the hard things, hard parts, teeth, nails, and bones. Sthita, being fixed, this gives us an even temperament, someone who's not easily swayed, and the ability to sleep. We need to just relax, sit still, fall asleep, rest. Chala is nervous impulse and movement, peristalsis, the whole process of movement. So you have fixed and moving. Sukshma, fineness, is the permeability of membranes, their ability to pass things through. We have so many different types of membranes in the body that have different permeabilities and that allow bodily functions to move forward. And then the stula, the grossness of things. So we have to have bulk to the body. If we become overweight, then this is also associated with the large quality. There's the function of blood clotting, and this is a function of substance, grossness, stula. And Vishada is clarity of perception, clear versus cloudy. The cloudy quality is present in confusion, when we're not able to see, when things are not obvious. It's present in cataracts, when our vision becomes blocked because of the cloudy quality of the cornea. But it's also important in healing bone fractures. How bones knit together, it depends on a cloudiness, the ability to not just have a clean break, but actually to come together and to knit together and become as strong as something was originally. So these are 20 qualities. There are 10 which are opposing. Guru and Laghu is heavy and light. Manda and Tikshna is dull and sharp. Shita and Ushna are cold and hot. Snigdha and Ruksha are oily and dry. Slakshna and Kara are smooth and rough. Sandra and Dravya are dense and liquid. Mridu and Katina are soft and hard. Sthira and Chala are fixed and moving. Sukshma and Stula are subtle and gross. Gross in the sense of large, substantial, heavy. Vishada and Avila are clear and cloudy. So how do these relate to the doshas? So for each dosha, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, there are qualities that produce imbalance, and there are qualities that balance. So now this is coming into a very important topic, because we're looking at the state of health as one where there is balance, where the doshas are balanced. And disease is caused by imbalance. So when we're looking at different regimens of diet and treatment and so forth, there is usually a focus on trying to find balance and trying to identify the imbalance. So for Vata, things that imbalance Vata are sharp, cold, rough, hard, heavy, light, dry, mobile, and clear. And Vata will be balanced by things that are heavy, oily, smooth, soft, hard, and cold. These help provide a balance. So Vata tends to be airy, tends to be move a lot. So when there is too much movement, then the vata can become imbalanced. So things that tend to ground vata will help provide a balance. So they're sort of pulling vata in a more grounded direction, and that helps to provide a balance. So pitta can become imbalanced by qualities that are sharp, hot, oily, clear, subtle, or dense. And pitta can be balanced by things that are cold, slow, heavy, dry, mobile, and stable. So if someone has a predominance of pitta prakriti, then if they indulge too much in, say, eating things with a lot of chilies, eating a lot of hot food, that can produce an imbalance, because a pitta person who has a very strong pitta, then they already have a lot of fire in them, and increasing that more can produce many different types of problems. Whereas having things that are cold, for example, like yogurt, it's cooling, and that may be helpful. That may help to balance the pitta. And finally, kapha. Kapha is imbalanced by things that are heavy. Remember, kapha is already a heavy constitution. So too much heaviness, oiliness, smooth, soft, hard, and cold. These are all things that will tend to imbalance the kapha. Someone who has a kapha prakriti, they will feel more cold in the wintertime, and they will do better in the heat. I think that's a typo. It should not say that cold balances kapha. So kapha is balanced by sharp, heat, hot, rough, hard, heavy, light, dry, mobile, and clear qualities. So there's a interesting question here. If someone has dry eyes, is that a vata issue? I will have Dr. Monica answer that. I don't know if she's... Can you hear? Okay, well, we'll have her answer that later. But we'll get back to that question. So for review, please, if you could review the material on Sankhya and post your questions on the forum. We're not going to have class next Sunday, June 19th, and then we'll get back to our normal schedule on Tuesday, June 21st, with Tridoshas and Vata. There is also a Sankhya quiz in the Sankhya module, and if you can go through that and complete it. And there's also an assignment. If you can please read about the Vata dosha in your module and book. So that's it. Are there any questions at this point?
So someone had any questions? I think Rich had a question about dry ice. Okay, so eyes, remember what we did before. What is the element that is responsible for vision? What is the element that is responsible for vision? It is the fire element that's responsible for vision. Right? So when a person is exposed to a lot of vata stressors, I call them the vata stressors. Can you tell me what the vata stressors would be? Vata stressors would be all the qualities that you've learned that imbalance vata. So when you expose vata to rough foods, dryness, dry weather, and not getting hydrated, so the vata energy, it doesn't matter what the dosha is. When you expose somebody to vata stressors, which is dryness, roughness, alcohol, tea, coffee, overuse of drugs, so then the dryness will manifest, meaning the fire in the eyes gets dried out by the vata. So the truth is, it's both vata and a pitta issue. It's both, because the vata has dried out the fire element. Because air can remove the fire. Fire will not move by itself. Fire needs a medium to move. So the answer is for dry eyes, yes, it's vata which is causing it, but it's pitta which is getting reduced. If somebody has their fire element is balanced in their eyes, then despite the vata stressors, they might not have dry eyes. But yes, it is a vata issue, but it's also a pitta issue. And when we go into 3 doshas in detail, we will learn how the doshas move. There's something called the dosha gati. Each dosha will move, causing the other dosha to move. Now, kapha is made of the element earth and water, vata, air, and pitta, fire. Can earth move? Can earth move by itself? So kapha is earth. We are moving into 3 doshas now. Let me make a new board here. This is the human body. Then from your colon onwards and legs is vata energy. In your liver and stomach is your pitta energy. And your eyes, ears, nose, throat, and lungs is your kapha energy. And this is where these 3 energies reside. So vata will reside from the colon onwards. Pitta resides on the fire element. Remember, we did the navel. The navel is the Manipura chakra, and it's associated with the fire element. So the fire resides in liver. It resides in the lower half of the stomach, and the rest of the body is kapha. So kapha has the quality of earth. Can you move earth? Yes or no? Can you move earth? What can move earth? Anybody want to answer the question? Kapha has quality of earth. Earth is not really movable. It will not move by itself. It needs something else to move it. Fire can move. Fire can move earth. But what is vata? Air. Air is mobile. Air can move fire and air can move earth. So the thumb rule is whenever an imbalance happens, it's the vata which is moving the fire and earth, usually, because it's easier to move, mostly. Does that answer your question? Make more sense? So the question about dry eyes is that the air is drying out the fire, and it's not even in the eyes, in the GI tract, in the colon. Any more questions? We haven't really reached the 2 doshas yet. You start the 2 doshas this Tuesday. Any more questions? Oh, the in-house class yesterday on digestive fire, it was amazing. We got a lot of recording done. And we talked about all the digestive issues, including usually the air-related digestion issues, the fire-related digestion issues, and the earth-related digestion issues. And we have to figure out how to. So one of the students, he came and he recorded the class, and he's going to edit it, and we'll try and put it up on the website as soon as edited. Any more questions? Now, your Sankhya quiz is online. A lot of you have attempted Ayurveda 101. I know Tara has attempted. And so please go and do your Ayurveda 101 quiz. Today is June 12th. You've got 3 days to finish it. It's very easy. It's not that bad. And the second quiz, the Sankhya quiz, you have June 30th to complete it. Because, you know, we are moving week by week and you have to read yourself and do some homework. So this week we're starting the Tradoshas module on Tuesday, but we don't have a class this Sunday. So please finish your Ayurveda 101 quiz if you haven't done it already. And we are going to start off with Prakriti. Now, I just want to tell you what we will do on Tuesday. We will discuss the Prakriti versus Vikriti. Now, remember we had asked you to do Ellen, if only 1 or 2 people come, then I don't have it. I need at least 4 people to have an in-house class. So if I have 4 people, I will do it. And usually they have to let me know in advance. If I have 4 people, I'll do it. You know, if nobody has signed up by Saturday evening, June 18th, then it's not going to happen. So next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 2 days from now, you'll do Prakriti versus Vikriti. And we will discuss the Vata dosha. Is anybody a Vata here? Is anybody a Vata? Tara, you are? Okay. So you remember we asked you to do a dosha test, a Prakriti test? Now, everybody went and did the Vikriti test. The Vikriti is a current imbalance. You're answering questions as you are now, whatever age or state of health or state of emotional being you are. Prakriti must be filled. You know, all the questions should be filled as when you were a child. Body size, when I was 10 years old, what was my body size? My memory, my appetite, my bowel movements, my face, you know, my weight, my height, all of that must be filled using when you were a young child, just hitting puberty. But most of the time when we ask you to do a dosha test, everybody goes and does their current imbalance. Then they get confused because it doesn't match up with a lot of things. Current imbalance is different than your actual constitution most of the time. So, you know, on Tuesday we'll ask you to do your Prakriti analysis and your Vikriti analysis, meaning you will do that test. We'll actually, at the end of this class, we're going to send you 2 forms. And one form you will fill as when you were a child of 10, 11, 12, or whenever you hit puberty. And the other form you'll fill as you are now at whatever age, 30, 35, 50, 26, whatever your age may be as you are now. Because what you were as a child is as close to your original constitution as possible. What you are now a result of your environment and thinking and lifestyle and diet and your choices. So it is different. I mean, if you can find someone who's Prakriti and Vikriti is saying that person is healthy. But so most of the time, our imbalance is always changing because Vata is always moving Kapha and Pitta within our body. And because you're doing a course in Ayurveda, let's not use the word dosha test. Let's use Prakriti analysis. Because as Ayurvedic practitioners or someone who will incorporate Ayurveda in their practice, we use the word Prakriti and Vikriti. Dosha is a word, because Prakriti is a sum total of 3 doshas. Prakriti is Vata plus Pitta plus Kapha, right? So Vata plus Pitta plus Kapha equal to Prakriti, meaning Prakriti has 3 doshas in it. All of us are a sum total of that dosha. And we have a primary dosha, a primary Prakriti, a secondary Prakriti, and a tertiary. So my dosha or my Prakriti is how I write it, V, P, K. Now my primary Prakriti, my primary dosha is Kapha, so K3, because I have most points in Kapha. My secondary Prakriti is Pitta, because my second number of points percentage is Pitta, and my least or tertiary dosha is Vata. This is my Prakriti. Meaning, when I was a child of 10, 11, or hitting Prakriti, my primary energy that dominated me was Kapha. Secondary energy that dominated was this and this. But now, at this age, it has changed. So it's always changing. Your Pitta can become high, your Kapha can become high, your Vata can become high, your Vata can become low, your Pitta can become low, your Kapha can become low, both of them can become high or low. So, we'll do all of this in detail, but I'm just trying to tell you, when you did the dosha test, it was not your Prakriti test, it was your Vikriti, current imbalance. So now when we send you a form, we're going to send you 2 forms. Actually, one form, you'll do it twice. One, you will do your Prakriti analysis, who you were when you were 10, 11 years of age. And if you cannot, if you have forgotten, ask your mother, ask an aunt, and what you are now, you can do yourself. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to send you the forms, and we will start Tridoshas, Prakriti, Vikriti, different types. And if you go to the 6A website, let me show you we are always updating what's happening here. And I'll post the forms here, and I'll post all kind of assignments. So your assignment is reading about Prakriti, and your assignment is reading about the Vata dosha. We are starting with Vata. We'll talk about the issues of Vata has, the qualities of Vata, how Vata will become imbalanced, how Vata will be balanced, what are the diet protocols for Vata, what are the herb protocols for Vata. Then we'll move to Pitta, and then we'll move to Kapha, and then we'll finish our Tridoshas by almost at the end of June. Then we will start Ayurvedic Anatomy. So now we are really getting into the meat of things. Everything else was a basis. That's why we did Panchamahabhutas, the 5 elements. And now we are getting into the meat of the actual most important. So entire Ayurveda is based on the Vata, Pitta, Kapha energies there. And then you have each energy has a subdosha. Vata has Prana, Apana, Udana. Pitta has subdoshas, and Kapha has subdoshas. You can do all of those as well. Okay, any questions, or should we finish the class? Oh, no one has any questions. Any feedback? Did you like the class?